Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns. In today's episode, we're just going to be talking about some baseball and whatever comes up. We don't even know what we're going to talk about yet. My name is
Nope.
Tyler. My co-host for this one, Will, John, producer Bobby there as well. And as I said, not really sure what we're going to talk about. We're just gonna talk some ball and see what
And nothing's
happens.
happening. Nothing's happening.
No,
Nothing
It's
matters.
14
we
games in the season. It's too early.
14 games
Yeah.
of the
Podcast doesn't
season.
matter.
And
Good
that's
night,
the episode
everybody.
because nothing matters. The end. Goodbye.
The
Yeah,
Braves still suck as of right now.
Yep.
I'm okay
Three,
with this.
4 and 10. 4 and 10.
Yeah, they
But
won
they
today.
they did take 2 out of 3 from the Phillies, so that's the
Yeah,
silver
the
lining.
Phillies kind of handed it to him.
Yeah, I for one, for some reason, was up the other night when they hit the walk off at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Not sure why.
I was.
Jesus. I
But
saw that game go into a rain delay, and I was like, screw this. I'm going to bed.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
not-
coming back
It's-
from an event from work. I didn't think there was any shot I was, and then all of a sudden it was like 11:30. The game starts up. I'm like, cool. I'll be home in 10.
I mean,
And
I'm
then I
not
saw
even a
that.
I'm not even a Phillies fan, but I was just like up and I'm like, wow, I'm bored. I'm
Okay.
gonna watch this game because I know it's still on.
I have enjoyed tuning into their games, to be honest. In terms
Well, the
of
Phillies are a fun team to
Phillies.
watch.
They are a fun
Yeah.
team to watch.
Yeah,
Well, what's
Uh,
what's your definition of fun?
That's a
well,
good question. What does make a fun team to watch for you guys?
a team that has superstar.
Oh,
Kick
that's
stick
easy.
the long
talent.
ball, baby. Give me those torpedoes.
Well, no, but like teams that have like players that can take over or be playmakers. I know it's baseball, you don't usually use the term playmakers, but um if I watch the Phillies, I know they have Schwarber, I know they have Turner, I know they have Harper. Like those are fun players to watch. Same kind of reason that I like watching a certain team. Well, I was gonna say the Pirates, but I that's it.
Not even your announcers like watching
I was gonna say I
Pirates.
don't really like them, but I do like watching Paul
No one
Skeens.
likes them now.
Like finding like that one player on a team to root for. Like as much as I hate the Reds, like Ellie, watching him, as he just hit a grand slam against the Pirates tonight. So
I would love to see the viewership numbers for when Paul Skeens is pitching for the Pirates.
Oh, it's probably like this: boom, boom,
Yeah.
and then flat line, boom, boom.
5 days, yeah.
Jeez.
He literally is the heartbeat of the Pirates.
Yeah.
I
I
will
mean, this
say-
isn't going to shock anybody, but I have enjoyed watching the Tigers.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna say there's
Scoring
fun.
a bit.
The fun teams to watch where you can again get behind a narrative or a story is cool. I mean, I think like again for me it's very player based. Like Mike Trout is always a fun watch, and he's been popping off this year.
I can't watch the Mets. I can't. Like, it's
The
just,
Mets, baby, the Mets.
I tune into their games and I'm bored. Like, seriously.
because of the announcers or their team or what.
I don't,
They've
I think
been
it's,
fairly-
I think
I
it's
feel
their
like was-
team. What'd you say? Well, I cut you off.
Well, no, I was gonna make a comment and I realized, well, I'm saying this and I don't actually have any merit. I'm just judging this based off of their run differential. I was gonna say like they don't have that many high scoring games, question mark.
No, it's not that. I think it's more so like I went into this with them with expectations of, oh, well, they're going to be tearing the cover off the ball, blah, blah, blah. And they have not. And I'm just like disappointed. The Athletics, the first couple of nights were interesting to me because of playing in a minor league stadium. Same thing with the Rays, but it just looks terrible on TV. So I stopped watching.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that I think Fangraphs were projecting this because I remember when we were doing our A's around the league in 30 days, but there's gonna be a lot of runs in that ballpark this year.
Yeah.
Well,
Against
so
them.
far the A's have scored 65 runs, which is I know not too shabby for them. It's over 4 runs a game. They've allowed 81.
Yeah,
That's the worst by far so far. Runs allowed.
yeah, and I think like Tyler Soderstrom is like tied for the lead in home runs right now. So
So is like Tommy Edmond. I mean, come on, let's
Yeah.
be
Wait,
real with
wait.
some of this.
You said that's the worst in the league so far, even with the
81
Rockies.
runs
and
allowed.
that, wow, that's a shocker, actually.
I mean, well, it's what 14 games, 81 runs allowed. It's like just
I-
shy of 6 runs a game.
Yeah, but I know this isn't saying much, but their record is 5-9, and they did just win today against the Mets. Or at
No,
least
I mean, the early season things have lovely like indicator. I should say lovely indicators that as in the like records do not always match up with the run differential as you would expect.
right. But like the Rockies, for example, are about where we thought that they would be of 3-10. in all honesty, at least where I thought they would be. So that surprises me.
Minus
I'm
36 run differential.
well, yeah.
John, to go back to your question, it's funny because I think in other sports it's easier for me to answer this question, and I don't know if it's because it's a like more of a like football like being more of a team game. Like there's players in football or like teams in football that I really enjoy. What are you laughing at?
Nut up, John, and answer the question.
But like I don't know, for me it's like kind of hard for like baseball. Again, there's players I root for, but like for you to say like, "Oh, is there like a specific like whatever like you like to watch?" Like that's hard for me to answer. Like I feel like for football I could probably go through a list of every position and be like, "Yeah, I enjoy watching this player. I enjoy watching this player." Like I don't know if I could do that for baseball.
No, the only reason I watch other teams is because of red zone and fantasy football. I
Yeah.
cannot watch any other team but the Ravens, in all
Yeah.
honesty. I am tuned out or I don't care.
Yeah.
In terms of like the for like the national games with football, like Monday Night Football is trash, Thursday Night Football is trash. Sunday Night Football, you'll have a good game here and there, but it's basically trash.
What about our days in college, John, where you watch football all day?
The
as
product
you
has
admitted?
gone down with that. So I find
We're
more
just trying not
enjoyment
to do our
watching
homework. I mean,
I, I find more enjoyment in watching other teams in baseball. I think mainly because the numbers actually matter more so than the record with baseball. I think that might have something to do with it.
Uh yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Like I said, there's just guys that I like Alvin by the way, we're going back to our roots here with big league breakdowns. We're talking about everything but baseball here. But
No,
like
That's
we're
why I
talking
keep
about
What
it
happened?
quiet.
no, but like it's like Alvin Kamara, like back in his prime, like he was like one of my favorite players to watch. Like I don't really have that as like a baseball. Again, Trout's fun, but um yeah, I don't know. It's just I guess since baseball isn't such a team sport in the sense that like when a play is happening, it's not like multiple people are batting at the same time. So
I
um,
still love the favoritism MLB does for Shohei Ohtani because it gets hilarious now.
I
These
Oh
didn't
my
people
know.
just
God, that
calling it out.
Twitter, the
Yeah,
MLB's
the
Twitter
Nationals
is
Twitter.
yeah,
Yeah, if we're gonna
it's
talk about
popping off.
that was
we can
fantastic.
talk
That
about
was
that for
fantastic.
sure.
Yeah, what Shohei Ohtani hits a home run in the game, gets all caps in the tweet MLB sends out. Then James Woods hits a go-ahead home run in that game, and it gets like a lowercase like,
I thought it was a
this
walk
dude
off.
has some. No, I think it was just go-ahead, but it
Yeah,
was still
God.
like a lowercase like. Yeah, no, this dude has some opposite field pop, and the Nationals Twitter account was, "Where's the caps there, MLB?" And they're right because the James Wood thing was a whole lot bigger than the Ohtani. It was just Ohtani being Ohtani.
Also that meme is great too of like the graphic where it's like
Three
Shohei
batters
Ohtani up in three.
away.
They had it like for Ovechkin's like record breaking goal. They had they're
Yeah,
like in the corner like
Oh
guys,
my god.
Ovechkin just broke the scoring record. Can we get a grip? But no,
Uh,
you're right
Ohtani's
about
on
that.
so
deck.
perfect.
Button up, Buttercup. Let's go over and watch that.
Yep.
We can let's transition back to a team we previously talked about, the Phillies, because Will, I know you do have uh
Oh no,
some
never.
things to say. So that's our next
Fine.
thing we can get into.
Bobby, you can join me in on this because we can go back and forth since you have no idea what I'm about to say. But
Yeah, go
before
for
we
it.
were going into this episode, we were trying to figure out what the heck we were going to talk about before we decided we are going to talk about nothing. And when looking at looking at things that are like, all right, what's legit right now, and whether it's how good a team is or how bad a team is, and what's just it's way too early to call. One of the things that I'm gonna pull up as I am concerned about is Alec Bohm, because I know that I'm the one that says it's early in the season, it doesn't matter. But the big thing for Bohm is,
At least he admits it now.
yeah,
Anything.
is
Anything
that
with Alec
he
Bohm.
is just Alec Bohm right now is he started the season under a microscope because of how the last like 2-3 months of the season went last year and into the postseason. And it started off to me the same way. I know that, yes, from a stat line, sure, but I'm thinking beyond the stat line. Like he's not slamming the helmet and bat down like his first at bat, but like every camera angle they show of Bohm whenever he does anything he's just like, he looks like he's miserable. Like he literally, everything he does is horrible. And I don't care what he says right now. I 100% believe everything he's doing, he's carrying over in everything he's doing. Like, I think he's carried over a little into the defense. I think it's carried it bat to a bat. I understand that, they're human and they will go through 0 for 20 stretches, and that's true. But the concerning thing is he's been doing this since July of last year, and I'm at the point now where I believe he can get better, but I'm losing faith really, really fast that I think he has any capability of keeping himself composed. And that to me is the most important thing, because if he's going to be the clutch guy that he was for a lot of last year and the year before that, he's got to be able to, take a deep breath, look for the pitch in his zone instead of just flailing at everything. And when something goes wrong, even if he hits the ball really well, it's just at someone, he acts like he just got cut from the team. Like, it's gotta stop.
So hold on. I know you said that you're not necessarily talking about stats here, but I want to talk about a stat that's
You
been
can, I
driving
know.
me nuts. And so I'm going to pose this question to Tyler or John. So 54 plate appearances is currently what Alec Bohm sits at for the season. What do you think his walk rate is?
I'm pulling stuff up. I'm gonna go with
No cheating.
Well, on the basis
know.
that I know roughly what his on base percentage is, which it's like 160 or 170. So his walk rate is probably like 3%,
Okay,
maybe.
John.
I'm gonna go with 10%.
Can I get Bobby? Can I say
One-
my Bobby? No, Bobby. Can I go? Because I want to try to do math in my head. It's probably like
Yeah, go for it.
1.2%, because he's probably got like one
Go for
walk
it.
and 50 plate appearances. So it's like what, 1.2%,
It is 1.9%
1.9.
walk percentage. Now, in
Jesus,
in
buddy.
retrospect, what do you think his strikeout rate looks like right now?
I mean, I would assume it can't be that bad. It's probably like what, low 20s, maybe.
Yeah, so about 20%, which wouldn't be a big deal if this was something we're used to seeing with him. Like last season, there was a really good stretch where it wasn't that he wasn't making contact with the ball. He was making contact with the ball. He was just getting some really bad ball in play style luck where he was not getting it past the infield, not able to, have any fly balls that would amount to anything. He literally is just not hitting the damn ball in any capacity right now, like at all.
Well, I mean, so I need to pull it up really quick. If Baseball Reference would load faster. Is I know one thing that's been talked about, and I mean, there have been a good amount of times where I can see it, where his hard hit percentage this season seems to be really good. I think they said going into this game it was like 87% or something, and like if that's and that's on balls 95 miles per hour and up, and like that sounds great even when you aren't hitting as well. It kind of is one of those signs of you're hitting the ball hard, you're just running into some bad luck. So I there's signs that
in that
based on
circumstance, you're
that,
talking
he
about
can get
8
out of it.
hits. You're talking about 8 hits in total.
Yeah, but like his hard hit percentage is over half. I mean, it's 53.7. That's not great, but you can see that he's still
It's
making
better than
contact.
everything he's done in his career. But
Yeah.
I guess it's 87% of those 53 that I heard before. Or no, it's hard hit.
They're mainly going on the
Average
ground
must
though.
have been
That's the problem.
87.5.
That's the problem.
And if you watch the games that let's see. I mean, yeah, but that's not against his like average. Like that's really
No, I'm
a
just
par. No, it's just that he's the type of person right now that he hits it like. I'm gonna take your two favorite people, Bobby, Alec Bohm and Nick Castellanos.
Jesus.
Nick Castellanos has been great lately.
He has, but the
have
one
a
thing
lot
I'm
of
gonna
bad things
bring
to say
up,
about him.
and
That
but
might
the
speak
thing
for
I'm
other
gonna bring up
issues.
is Alec Bohm to me will care, like he's at a point again where he's carrying everything he does wherever he goes, and he will not forget. And he could have 3 hard hit line drives to an outfielder that either could have been a hit or you just happen to hit it on the nose at someone and he gets all pissed and whatever. Meanwhile, Nick Castellanos like 3 games ago went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. And then you have a game like today where he goes 3 for 4 and he hits 2 doubles and gets like 2 or 3 RBIs. Like that's how you let things go. Is you go 0 for 5 and he goes, eh. And then you have Alec Bohm who hits a ball 110 miles an hour that the shortstop catches and it's like he's rage quitting on MLB The Show.
Now, could it be?
He would hit it perfect, and he slams the controller.
Here's my question: does this come down to the type of player? One, I know Castellanos is older, I think,
Yeah.
and so there is that
Little
experience
bit.
and that maturity. I know it's not much, but there's also, and I feel like there's more expectations for Bohm with being the third baseman in Philly. You know what I mean? I think to an extent he has higher expectations than Castellanos.
I know, but
Well,
he's
given
28
his
years
age
old,
and
and this is his 6th season. Like at some
Well, so,
point,
yeah.
we're less
I mean,
forgiving of that.
Bohm was a first round pick for the Phillies. He's young, so therefore there's a lot of expectations when it comes to the future. Are they different players mentality wise? Absolutely. And like you said, because Castellanos is older, so he's done it, so he knows how to let it go. However, that's a skill that all baseball players should be able to learn, is kind of putting aside the bad and be able to flush it and go at it the next day. And one of the things that's concerning about Bohm is that this is a hurdle we thought we got over like 3 years ago, because this was something that was an issue like in his third or fourth season. And then he I can't say the exact year. I just know it was suddenly like he started a season and it just seemed like he had a lot more confidence. He was a lot more relaxed. Like everything felt like he was finally trending like in the right direction. His defense was getting better. He was being clutch. He just seemed like he might not be a 20 home run guy, but he was definitely a 280s, even potentially a 290s hitter, and could get you 100 RBIs. And like, that's fine. You don't need to be the big home run guy. You just need to make contact and come up in the clutch situations. And then last year, once July hit, just for whatever reason from then on, it seemed like he reverted. I don't know why. I can't say what was going on. Just suddenly everything was the biggest deal, and what seemed like whatever was learned before was kind of thrown out the door, which is why it was like it happens. So maybe it was just something was going on behind the scenes. We don't know. But the discouraging thing for me right now is it seems like he's doing the exact same thing, not just from he's not performing, but mentality wise, he's doing the same thing. And that's more concerning to me than the fact that he's batting 160.
Do you think that this goes back to the whole thing of I don't know how many yeah, it was just last year, the whole I F and hate this
That was like
place.
3 years ago at this point.
That was 3 years ago.
That
Okay.
was like 2022.
Well, do you
Like,
think that
already
he's still
before he got
carrying?
fired.
Do you think he's still carrying a bit of that on his shoulder, that immaturity?
I think it
I
just
mean, I
he puts
don't.
a lot of
No, I
pressure
don't
on
want to.
himself.
I mean, I think he puts pressure on himself. I wouldn't say immaturity, and even then, I wouldn't say immaturity. It's just his emotions got the better of them. But the fact that he fessed up shows anything but him being immature. So, but I think, yeah, he's someone that holds himself in high standards and believes he can do a lot of really great things, which he's shown he can. And so he's just the fact he's right now really more focused on the result, it feels like, than just the approach. And I
Yeah,
feel
for
like
sure.
that's the issue. Because if he could step back and be like, I hit the ball 110, I hit it at someone, but everything was looking good, great. But then when he like swings really wild, or he takes a pitch down the middle and he, like cursing himself back to the bench, it's like it happens. Like he's not in the right, he's not focusing on the right thing right now. And he kind of needs to get like, slapped back in the shape.
He needs
I'm-
to take the
I'm
advice of not Phillies legend Joel Embiid. Trust the process, okay? Sometimes it's not always going to work out, but trust the
And get injured.
process. Yes.
I'm like advocating when I say this. So there was an article that MLB put out last week regarding Pablo Lopez, Twins pitcher,
Mhm.
and something they were talking about is how he uses like meditation and visualization
Visualization.
when he's on the mound. And something he talks about is like how he's able to, if he's in a jam at some point, he's able to kind of center himself. He's, instead of thinking of how shitty the jam he's in, he just was like, well, I'm here now and it's 0-1 and it's, no outs, bases loaded type thing. And he can just kind of pull himself through that. I feel like Alec Bohm needs to take a note or
Mhm.
two of something to that effect, to where you could just kind of put yourself like, don't worry about that you are 0-2 or 0-3 on the day. You're up to bat and you got runners on, you have no outs, and you have a favorable count. Like, you got to put yourself just in that scenario and just kind of put yourself like, it's you in the batter's box, in the pitcher, and nothing else. Just that's somehow we've gotten so overcomplicated with baseball thinking, like with terms of strategy and everything else. Sometimes we got to go back to just keep it simple, stupid, you know?
It's
Yeah,
almost like he's getting. It's almost like he's trying to take the manager's job when you put it that way, of worrying about everything else, like making
You're a
this move,
professional
doing
athlete.
this.
You're going to just naturally do that. I mean, I feel like for most athletes, a lot of them obsess over the, you know, little details that can get them, more run value, ways to kind of put their team in a better position. They're not just thinking about, what pitch could be coming next when they get up there. I mean, they're thinking about, if they have a runner on, okay, how can I get this guy from first to second? Or okay, how can I, make sure I get the ball in this gap in the shift or something? Like, it could be a million different things that they're thinking about at that time. Not to mention that they're also getting, input from somebody else got down the goddamn baseline the whole time. They're not just thinking to themselves, they're also having to take that into account as well. A
Or
lot of thinking they
from,
have to do when you're up there. Baseball is a thinking sport. Don't let anyone else tell you different.
or if they're
I,
getting
Clearly, it's all
info from the
analytics.
dugout and
yeah.
trash cans.
Okay. I think that, yeah, I mean, what you said about Pablo Lopez is that, that's a kind of a mentality that I think is, first of all, good for life, and second of all, good, like
Yes.
every good athlete should have, right? Like, you can't change what happened, so like, why are you getting frustrated over it? And I think a lot of players do that. To For Bohm, it seems evident that maybe he doesn't do that as well as others, but I think, again, he just holds himself to a high standard. Now, I mean, you look at his career numbers, like especially the last 3 years, he's very consistent in what numbers he puts up. So you almost like kind of think that, eventually he'll get around like that 275, 280 mark batting, be like in the teens for home runs, but like right now it's just not looking great. And I've seen a lot of like discussion with Phillies fans online, and I know it's very early, but they were like, wow, we should have traded him when there was value there. Now there's no value and all that, and it's just like, I don't know.
14
Yeah,
games in the
yeah.
season, there's no value.
And look,
That's them being Philly fans.
and maybe
No.
if it continues, then that's a question.
WLP caller.
And right, and maybe like a change of scenery to a place that isn't um so crazy with media and fans would maybe be helpful. I don't know, but I also think that he wants to succeed with this team because, again, first
Mhm.
round pick with the team. He's been here, and he's shown like for periods last year that he can be one of the better players on this really good team. So he
He's
just,
probably the biggest reason right now why the Phillies aren't quite there offensively as a team, is because he's always been that rock in the middle of the lineup where it seems like you put a man in scoring position, Bone comes to the plate, he's going to knock him in. And if he doesn't knock him in, he'll like drive the ball and move him over. And
yeah.
right now, the Phillies have been tinkering with their lineup a little bit to find ways to protect Harper and get Schwarber into
Finally,
more run producing
they finally took
situations.
a
I
pretty
do
drastic change with that
this
today.
is the lineup formation they have right now at the top is honestly what I feel like they truly want long term. They're just
Mhm.
waiting for Stott to kind of be able to be a top of the
Hit the
order guy
figure it out
again, like he
button.
was a couple years ago. Um, so, but yeah, if Bohm can be the guy he was the last couple of years, and at some point he will, um, and
Yeah.
put him back into the fifth or sixth hole, then the team's going to do a lot better, and a lot of this will be forgotten. But he needs. It's just the mindset, like you said, and the biggest thing about that too is if he doesn't figure it out, the Phillies have Aiden Miller that they like a lot in the minors, who's starting the season in Double A. If Miller gets up to Triple A this year and Bohm has issues still, or at least there's still questions when the season ends, then it's not unheard of to think the Phillies might try to go drastic in how things are next year and potentially just give Miller a shot to start the season and get rid of Bohm.
Yeah.
Possible.
And also, I to kind of wrap up this point, you're talking about like the mentality shift from like a guy like him to Casty. I don't know. Maybe it's also something like Casty has been in the league for a long time. Prior to the Phillies, he had only had two short playoff stints. So, I think for him, obviously, as a more veteran player who's been around, it's like times have been a lot worse than they are right now, and I can still put up that all behind me and still go out, year after year and try to put up numbers. So, I think really it just comes down to like Bohm is putting way he's his harshest critic. He wants to be perfect, and that's really hard to do in a sport like baseball.
Yeah,
So
and
I I
I'll
hope he
give
turns
him
it
the
around.
benefit, right? I hope, and kind of saying like he has been under a microscope because he holds himself to a high standard since I would say the home run derby, like since he kind of made the All Star and since he
Curse of
started
the
to
home
kind of
run derby.
seriously that's when the decline was just so drastic. Like he was tearing the cover off the ball beforehand, and then once the home run derby happened, it just he never quite got back to
Yeah.
it. And me and Will were talking constantly about how we were watching Bowman. We were like, man, he just looks pissed off whenever he gets up there. And and look, we're not in his head. We truly don't know. We're just, we're seeing a guy slam his helmet all the time. And, we got to question whether his mental
Here's my
is in the right
question.
spot.
Do
No,
the
we're moving
Phillies
on. No
have
questions.
do the Phillies have a person on staff where the players can talk to like mental health wise?
No
And the
idea.
reason
You
I
have to
asked
ask the
this
staff.
I couldn't
The
tell you.
reason I ask this is because the Orioles just hired one this year, so I was curious if uh, if the Phillies had someone on staff like that. If you
Now
guys
that you
know,
mention it, you have to ask the staff. I have no idea.
okay,
I imagine
they
I
haven't
imagine
talked about it
most teams
on air. Like,
I imagine most teams have some level of a sports psychologist, whether
If
it's one
they
person or a
if
whole
it's on the
department.
they mentioned on the broadcast, then they said it
Yep.
for 5 milliseconds
Yep.
and then moved on.
And
He
also, I'll give
just need
Bone
to
this too.
talk to
I'm sure he has talked to people, has worked to figure stuff out in the summer. It's just in the off season. It's just not translating.
yeah. You just need to
Baseball
talk to
players
John
need to be
Kruk
like
and
Severance players. I'm watching Severance right now, second season. So I want that. They need that like Severance mentality of just work, everything else.
Yep.
No, I literally think like if he needs to have like a therapy session with John Kruk like every
How
week.
he does
Like
this.
John Kruk is just so like laid back. He's like, I don't give a shit, man. Like, bro, just go out and do your thing. That's what he needs.
no, John Kruk would then turn into a long-winded story about how he played how he played baseball in prison.
If Kruk was a therapist, here's a pitcher of beer and like an ice pack. Let's watch some like really stupid shit. Like I
Yeah.
Oh, hey, look, there's a guy that just walked by. I'm gonna scare the shit out of him.
I'm gonna poke it
John
with a
Kruk, I
stick.
love that guy.
I'm gonna touch him.
Nah, again,
I know where that's from, but Will.
I sincerely hope Bohm turns it around and the Phillies will.
He will. I'm confident in this.
Yeah.
I'll stake my claim on that. I think he'll figure
Oh,
it
he'll
out.
turn it.
So-
He'll turn it around. But I'm still
So-
concerned
Yeah.
for his mindset.
I have
Yeah.
I have a different question for you, gentlemen. Somebody who has made a change in the outfield, one Mr. Mikey Trout. His fielding percentage is the lowest of his career. Do you think that this move is a bigger deal for him than previously we would have thought, going from
This
center to
dude
right
is
field?
not like fleet of foot anymore. This dude hits home runs and should sit on the bench. Should be a DH.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I don't even care if he goes out there and fields his position 50% of the time. If he plays like at least 140 or 150 game and he's hitting like he is now, at least home run wise, bro, I don't care.
I mean,
There's a
it
lot.
seems
There's
like
a lot
right
of
now-
defensive mistakes that you can forgive if
Mhm.
the dude is batting like he's batting right now. I mean, he's got 6
Yeah,
home runs
no.
in the year.
He can hit
Like-
230, but he hits like 45 home runs and plays the field once every like 2 years, then you're fine.
I mean, I
At
still
the
think the
moment, he's not
move-
even hitting 230. He's only hitting like 208. However, 6 home runs, you are correct.
If he can walk a ton of times, then sure,
Yeah,
be
but-
Kyle Schwarber.
That's the thing. It's like, and like he's basically got an RBI per game, so at least one. So he's ultimately the big scoring contributor on that team right now, which isn't saying much, but is worth saying.
Is he
Only
still the
reason
face
they
of
know
Major
him.
League
Yeah.
Baseball, though?
no.
No, it's Shohei.
Okay. we
I
just
never
talked
saw
about
a
how
three
he-
batters away
Yeah.
graphic when it came to Mike Trout back in the day.
No, he's Mike
It hasn't
Trout.
been for a while.
Mike Trout, there was
Sadly.
talks at some points that, will he go down as the greatest baseball player of all time? And I think that's cooled off a lot because of the injuries. But yeah, in his heyday, he was unbelievable. But
You want to talk about mental pressure?
I think
Yeah.
he's this generation's Mickey Mantle. If he would have stayed healthy, who knows what he would have done.
yeah, I
Oh,
think
they can say
again,
that about a few guys.
there's definitely a
Yeah.
case looking at his numbers and the awards he was getting that yeah he could have been, but it just but I still think for him the ultimate goal is them eventually moving him to DH. But I don't really think they particularly like I wouldn't, not that I wouldn't care, but like I would rather put him in a position where the damage defensively is going to be limited and he's going to be able to see the field as much as he can throughout the season. So for them, and the Angels are kind of playing with house money this year anyway. They don't have expectations, so it's like,
Well, they're playing like it with being at the top, one of the top teams in their division. I mean, that
Yeah.
isn't saying much. It's
The
14
A's are
games,
doing
and
well, or the Angels are doing well. Woo.
yeah,
I mean,
You know what
I
that
picked them
means?
to finish 5th. So
Me and Tyler
Yeah,
have an
you know
Angels
where I
fan that
still
we're
think
friends
they're going to
with,
finish 5th.
who keeps asking to stop the count with the current standings of the Angels. By the way, speaking of the Angels, I guess I should mention this as we're talking here. They're throwing a no hitter against the Astros at the moment. So,
Oh, nice.
Thank you for jinxing it.
yeah, way to go, buddy. Way to go,
Oh,
dummy.
fuck the Angels.
When
All right.
it's busted, you can come back to
Tyler
this
Anderson, by the
moment
way.
with the video proof that he jinxed it.
Oh,
Yes.
I'll take
Pirates
that.
legend Tyler Anderson. God.
Yep.
I do want to stay in this division real quick and talk about the Mariners, because well, all the problems we thought they were going to have are still there. They still can't hit for shit, and it's now like I think if this continues like in the next month or two, I think you're now going to have a conversation about like, all right, do we need to like look at how we're constructing this team because
Well, the no hitter's over.
is it really?
Wow!
Is it really?
Damn, Bobby, way to go!
There's a
Holy
man on
crap,
second.
dude.
Looks like a 2-out double.
Holy crap, dude! Like, what
Oh,
inning
yeah.
was it in?
Oh yeah.
What inning was it in?
Sixth.
Oh, well, that's not too bad. But
I
still,
had to
what the
mention
hell,
that.
man?
I just pulled it back up
Really?
on Savant. Yep, that was a double. Whoops.
That's tragic.
Bobby ruins a no-hitter. There's the headline for the short.
That's why you don't say the word no hitter during a no hitter.
Or perfect game, or
Wow,
you know.
man, I man, that was way too quick. Holy
Wow.
shit! I
Thank
got-
you. That
Way-
was.
way
I
to
love
go.
baseball karma. She's the best.
You give this man a microphone one time, and this is what he
Holy-
does.
All right, I'm gonna. You know what? You guys can just. Yeah, that's better.
This is why we didn't want you on the panel initially.
Get out of here.
Be
Okay,
gone,
Mariners
thought.
suck. You can go back to it. Sorry.
All right.
No,
Their
I-
team batting average is 200. That's
Yeah, and-
ridiculous.
They're 29th in the league. So
Wait, there's someone worse?
yeah, there
Who's
is
it under 200?
somehow.
It's the
Somehow.
Pirates.
I don't know how it could possibly be the Pirates, but it is.
Oh, not the Rockies.
But I think this was a team that was really on the cusp of like even like World Series, you could say, and not to say that their playoff window is closed or anything. But like I just feel
Oh, it's
like
gone.
I feel like we're gonna be having a conversation again about this team in like a month or two if they're in the bottom, whatever. And now they're dealing with injuries. Like Robles is out for like 3 months. Ryan Bliss, I think, is now like he's gonna
He's
be out
done,
for almost
basically.
a season. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's like 4 to 5 months.
hey, good news. Jorge Polanco's hitting. Congrats.
I know.
But like Julio's batting 170. Arozarena batting 180. It's
7
just,
out of 9 guys in their lineup have a batting average of 200 or less.
yeah, and
They need to do an experiment some season and just have a team of all left-handers. Let's just see what happens.
yeah, really.
Like,
I'm so for this.
it's 100 like that, or build a new freaking batter's eye. I don't care, but obviously at this point,
It can't
Whatever.
just be the batter's eye. Come on. Other
at
teams
this
play
point,
there too.
Yeah, and you know what team or what ballpark favors the pitcher the most? That ballpark.
Yeah. No, it
So,
is. It's
Other teams play there 3 times a season. Mariners play there all the time, and apparently every time they go to the ballpark, it's just, we're home.
no. I mean,
Well,
we
if
look.
that's
we
the
looked at their
problem, then
pitching
they need to
splits.
fix it. This is an organization thing.
Oh,
Ben.
I'm
Hey,
sure
they
none
had
of
the
those
curse.
guys haven't said anything.
They had the playoff drought that lasted 20 plus years. They broke it, and now they're back in another one.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just like again, you're looking at guys that just need to step up and it's not happening. And I again just fear that you have a pitching staff that at least we think is really good, and obviously it is. Maybe the ballpark does play factor into that, but you just don't want to waste that talent. Again, we're gonna keep saying this for everything until June or July. It's still early. I mean, they are 6-8, so it hasn't been a catastrophe to start the season, but it's
No,
just
like last year.
it's the same story though. Like
Mhm.
everybody we talked about it. Every free agent or any possible trade that was an offensive infielder to the Mariners. It was Bohm, it was Torkelson, it was
Look at
friggin'
Torkelson for the Tigers.
like
God,
we had
that dude came out of hibernation.
everybody was talking about, oh man, like any possible guy should go to Seattle because they need hitters and blah blah blah, and they didn't address it. And again, you're as bad as you are there. So I just worry that a team like Seattle, who was on the cusp, their fans were unbelievable about it. Like that was awesome to see when they were, getting to the playoffs and stuff. Like, hopefully, we're not losing that magic already, and hopefully Julio too figures it out because I
He
do
does
like
not
Julio.
solve the beginning of the season. He
I
doesn't.
mean,
That's it.
Yeah,
He takes 2 months, half the season, figure it out, and he'll go on a tear when he does finally figure it
he
out. But
needs
it seems
winter
like he has
training.
a huge
it's
adjustment
winter
period.
train.
I don't know
He
what
needs
it
to
is.
get down to Florida in December and celebrate
No,
Christmas there.
he needs to play spring training in the ballpark. Just get used to how he hits there, and then this way he'll be a few months ahead of
Wait a
schedule.
minute, they have winter ball in the Caribbean, don't they? Send his
Yeah,
ass down there.
yeah, or dude, Arizona, anywhere, bro. Like, it's just the whole team
I
needs to pick it
think.
up.
Well, that's
They
your
need a new
biggest issue is
ballpark.
when the face of
The
your
whole team needs to be
franchise is
executed.
batting 170 and his on base percentage is 302. That's you gotta help your guys here. Like you gotta do something
He
if you're the
gets on
face of the
base
franchise.
30% of the time.
Yeah,
Cool,
I mean,
cool.
it is like again, there is numbers outside of batting average, I will say, but um, you just hope for him he can pick it up. Other than like outside of Seattle, I know John, you did want to talk about umps. Maybe we'll see how this episode
I
is.
personally feel like umpires have gotten worse, and I wonder if it's because of ABS and like honestly, like having in the spring training, pointing this out and really just showing it to guys, like, hey, here's how bad they actually are.
Well, no,
Like,
I'll let Bobby go on his tangent in a second. I'm just
He's
gonna
ready.
go.
I was
Yeah, he's
watching him.
ready. All I'm gonna say really quickly before Bobby erupts is that I do think ABS in spring training has hurt the start of this season because I don't think umps were necessarily focusing as much in spring training because players could challenge stuff and it was this whole test thing, and because of that, they aren't as keen or aware of yet of what the actual strike zone is. So it's going to take a little extra time for them to kind of hone in on what the strike zone is. So we're going to have to deal with some of this stuff for 2 months. Okay, go Bobby.
hold on before he starts. I think that personally, that if any argument that the umpires had that we don't need this, like you're not winning that argument anymore. All right, your turn, Bobby.
All right. My position is really not as extreme as you guys are letting on.
I
Now,
just don't understand it is the thing.
Hold on,
at
we have
times, so I
talked
don't
off
know if
air
I'm
about
doing
this.
something wrong.
it is so simple, and it's not even a strong position. It's understand the slope that you're going to get on if you allow ABS in regular season games, because once you do it, there's no going back to what we had. Now,
All right,
I'm
so
not
I
saying
have a
that
quick
is a
question.
good or a bad thing. I am just saying the ramifications of doing it are going to be big for
I
the
just have a
game, and I know it's
quick-
supposed to be.
Well, just my quick question for you is about saying how the slope, or I guess how things will change. Are you saying that umpires will therefore be more careless, you think, and not try to focus on the strike zone because they're going to be aware
No.
that ABS is a thing, and
No,
therefore
no,
it's gonna
no. So here is my argument, and I will admit it's a little tinfoil hatty, but I don't know how it goes
All
any
right.
different. Okay, so here's the thing: I have absolutely seen this movie before, and then stop me when I'm telling lies. Okay,
Moneyball.
like So my thought is,
Major League
okay,
Two.
you let ABS into the game, all right. And so how many challenges were they allowed in the spring season when they were testing
You're
this
given
out?
2, but you keep them if you're correct.
Okay, cool. So you get 2 challenges. Okay, let's say do that. Okay, that is a modest way to include it in the game and to try to get more accurate calls. No question. Next year there's going to be a meeting after they do that for one season. They're going to be like, well, maybe 2 was enough. Let's start giving them like 4, or let's start giving them 5 or something to that effect. And they're going to keep on doing this. Now, it's going to be a slow burn, but that's what's going to happen. And what I'm saying is, and what I'm arguing is that at some point, whether for bad or for worse, or really I should say, I don't know if it's good or bad yet. I haven't gotten to that point yet to figure out whether that's going to be good. At some point, they are really going to eliminate the need for the home plate umpire, except for foul tips, except for maybe pitch clock violations, really anything to that effect. That's not a calling a pitch. You are basically eliminating the need for a home plate umpire. Now, I recognize umpires union still has a lot of say in a lot of different things, and they are able to keep certain people employed that probably shouldn't have been for as long as they have. Okay, yeah. Totally understand. So there's still power there and I'm sure they are in constant discussion with the league about this already. But to say that risk isn't there, I think is incredibly short-sighted. Now, I admit this is probably maybe 10 years out, likely, because you have a lot of people that you gotta A, convince that this is a good thing, and B, convinced that it's going to work for the foreseeable future, because you are really changing the game of baseball at that point. And at some point, when it gets there, then how much are we going to see that trickle down into, like, obviously, I mean, the minors have had systems like this for a while now, but like everything from like I wasn't raised on ABS system when I was playing baseball, but maybe kids are going to be at some point. I don't know. Like I have a bunch of these little mini computers that really don't cost that much. I mean, if the Little League had some funding, I mean, they could probably put a tracker on this and maybe it just works. I don't know. So it's changing the landscape, and I don't know yet whether that's a good or a bad thing. That's all my position really is. I'm not even technically against the system. I am, and me and John were kind of talking about this the other day. I am for as much accuracy as possible. And yes, a machine is going to beat the human out on any capacity. I was talking to somebody else about this today, and I'm reading a book right now. It's the Inside Game, which does a decent job of pairing. Shut up. It does a decent job of comparing, like, it basically uses baseball as a point of reference to discuss psychological biases, and the first one they talk about is umpires, because something that they notice with umpires is that they're always thinking about what the previous pitch was called, whereas the machine doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So and you can see this when we talk about the umpire scorecards all the time, which, by the way, still doing a lot of great work, that team, by the way. I got to give them all the credit in the world. That's where the estimated strike zone comes from. The estimated strike zone comes from the fact that they think that this part right outside the plate is on the plate. This is where they think a strike is. The machine doesn't give a shit. You give it a set of parameters, and it's a ball or a strike. It doesn't care what it was 2 pitches ago. But there's a bias, and unfortunately a bit of a loop that umpires fall into subconsciously, where the previous pitch, or sometimes even the next pitch, they're going to talk about them more in, I think, the next few pages. I haven't gotten that far yet.
It's a slow reader.
But I am a slow reader. I'll take.
As long as you take in the subject, it's fine.
Yeah. So I just, like I said, the machine is obviously going to give it 100% accuracy, and I do think accuracy when it comes to balls and strikes matters. We have seen it completely decide the outcomes of games. I can't argue against any of that. I'm also for people having jobs too. So
they're going to keep the jobs. I hate that argument because it's completely false. If anything, it adds more jobs. So basically, if I'm
for the
understanding
umpires, I should say it's going to add more
even
jobs
for the umpires. They're not going to have a fucking Wii Sports announcer go strike one. You're still going to have the umpire do everything, and all it is you're going to add jobs because of people needing to run the technological side of the whatever strike zone system is put in place. So you're not losing. All right, I'm going to use this example because I've always kept this in the back of my mind, and that I'm finally throwing it out there, whether it's good or not. To me, giving balls and like automated system to umpires is like giving an MRI machine to a doctor. Like you can tell the doctor, like, here's the injury, like go in and do it. Now, either the doctor can use the MRI machine, which tells them exactly what they need to do, in which case they do it, like an umpire would get the automated system in their ear and tells them what it is, and you're going to be right. Or you could say, hey, doc, here's the injury. Go dig in and figure it out. And they might screw it up a lot of the time. Like,
I need back surgery.
It's not
Great.
meant to replace. It just vastly helps them do their job. But yeah, like you said, it takes away as much as they need to do, but they still need to be there for tags, check swings, foul tips, little things like that. But am I right in saying in the end, though, that basically your concern is how baseball could potentially be how it could be tinkered if ABS is introduced over the coming years? And I'm basing it, Judge, I guess a good example would be how when the pitch clock was introduced for baseball, there was those parameters, and then immediately the next year Rod Manfred changed it. Now, granted, they've stayed on that for now with the like 15 and 18 second like timers, but you're talking about how that gets introduced and then how it could be tinkered over the years to perfect it, and how as they tinker it might potentially interfere with baseball more than we realize. That's, am I right in saying that's what your concern is?
Because so the main so look, MLB has a lot of money coming in and out of it, and Rob Manfred obviously I mean he's not he said he's not going to be here much longer in terms of being with the MLB commissioner, but
one can only hope.
3 or 4 years, whatever he said his end of his contract is.
Yeah, so so obviously very progressive dude, adding a pitch clock. The way my grandfather put it, he's like, I can't believe they finally figured out how to put a sport with no clock in it. They finally figured out how to put a clock in it before major sport. Like that was how he took that news, right? So, so I mean, baseball has to keep progressing. I mean, how many times over like even the past couple of decades has it been talked about that? Oh, baseball needs to catch up. Baseball needs to, be a little bit more progressive for current times, and yada, 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 yada. So the first thing they tackled was how long a baseball game was, right? I mean, that a core, almost fundamental thing about a baseball game kind of got taken away. And for better or worse. The other part of it too, that I brought this up kind of briefly, but I don't think I explained it quite well, is, I also feel like we're going to start seeing an interesting new generation of pitchers if this system comes on. This is a decade or two down the line. That I'll take. This is not going to be something we see now. There's going to be less pitchers that are going to focus on finesse.
DLB, then you'll know.
Yeah.
Oh no! This might solve the Tommy John issue. What?
I feel like this is going to worsen the Tommy John issue, if anything. I mean, I think because pitchers are going to focus less on finesse and more on velocity going down the plate, which is going to mean they're going to throw harder.
Anyway,
What are you shaking your head? What is the lie there? Why would pitchers focus on finesse if they can't get away with balls outside anymore? Whereas if they can figure out how to throw 103 over the plate consistently so that every pitch has to be swung at.
I will say this,
that they would focus more on finesse so it can be on the corner rather than be dead center.
But they can't. They're not going to hit the corner every time. They're human. They're not a machine. They're going to miss it.
Focus on it.
They're going to pitch inside. They're going to pitch outside.
I don't think the focus on pitchers is honestly going to change that much. But the one thing that I think could potentially back up what you're saying about the fireball pitcher is that one thing I think that feels very consistent across all umpires in baseball, and it's been like this for years, is that the most missed pitch is at the top of the zone. That's the one where you see a lot of pitches on the line that are called balls, and it seems to be like a universal blind spot, is that no pitcher no ump really seems to be consistent with the top of the zone. If they bring in ABS system, or they sometime down the line go fully automated, then it's literally, baseball is going to be a sport about, I'm going to throw 105 at the top of the zone, because that's really hard pitch to get on top of.
The other end of that too is that there's going to be a generation of smarter batters. Batters don't have to guess as much whether they think the ball is actually going to fall into the zone or not. So at a certain point, there's going to be a lot of batters who are going to be smarter about letting pitches go. So at a certain point, pitchers have to adapt to this and be like, well, we can't finesse as much because they're not going to chase nearly as often as they used to. So now we just got to worry about getting it over the plate as fast as possible in a decent spot. Whether that's, your righty pitching against left-hander, you need to get them inside or anything to that effect. It's just, I feel like velocity is going to be the thing that is going to reign above all else. And I mean, we are seeing parts of that more or less.
Yeah.
Once they have a couple guys who can throw 103, 104 consistently, which by the way, that just sounds scary. I hate that. But someone's going to do it.
It could physically happen at this point.
We say, we say that. We say that until someone does it, and it's not like that, hasn't been reached before.
It's just, I guess, consistently at 103, 104 in the zone, I guess is the thing. It feels like that's a relief pitcher type of thing. And
yeah,
when they're pitching one inning, that's fine. When they're pitching 5 to 7 innings, that's a little bit of a different story, especially keeping it at that intensity the entire time. And that something like that will just cause a whole lot more injuries. And so I feel like they're kind of at the limit right now when it comes to what the human arm can truly take, unless they find new ways to reconstruct the arm and allow bionic arms. And next thing,
I was gonna say they're gonna allow bionic arms at some points.
I don't know. We also thought, I'm sure they thought 30 years ago, pitcher throwing 97 was the pure limit. The game evolves.
That's what I mean. It's like,
that's the thing.
Yeah, and that's when guys had like a leg kick that they were basically trying to kick the sun out of the sky. So. But the human body was also like, again, back then there wasn't like these crazy ass, workout facilities and focus on, physical health. These were guys that just so happen could throw fast just by default with their scrawny asses.
Wait, you mean Babe Ruth's diet of hot dogs and beer on a regular basis every single day of his life while he played is not healthy? What?
I know, shocker.
If it works,
it's a huge shock. It works for me.
Hey, listen.
I was gonna say, if it works for him, it works for me.
Hey, listen, everyone's different, brother.
No, I kind of agree with you though, Bobby, about like how this I think is just gonna keep going. Like, because I still think there's a lot of people out there that the end goal is to have robo umps completely. So it's like, when do we get there, and when does ABS, like, again, it's all right, it's 2 this year, like if they can kind of continue to decrease it, like I feel like the end goal for a lot of people is still robo umps, which
I'm gonna disagree.
That's what everyone wants. I hate I'm not saying with you guys, but like there's an online argument whenever this conversation happens, like, oh well, they only get a certain number of time. Brother, you would take full robot umps if they offered it tomorrow, because everyone's getting tired of, and rightfully getting tired of how umps are currently calling.
I've heard.
Sorry, I don't like seeing Laz Diaz
come out and said that they actually prefer a full automated system over ABS.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like ABS is kind of like, it might be it might be a band-aid, I guess, but I still think like robo umps are the goal, and I can see that happening in the next, I don't know, a couple seasons, but like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I could probably say it.
They haven't really had a bad test with them every time they've done it. Like, so it's really just a matter of when.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm tired of seeing Laz Diaz make the damn game about himself rather than, about the players on the field. So anything that makes the game about the players and not the umpire, I'm all for. And that goes across all sports.
I hate the argument umps use of, it's my zone. It's like, no, there's a zone, and your job is to interpret it for everyone. It's not your zone, it's a zone.
Yeah.
You're the translator.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, again, we've kind of had this conversation because it goes into a full-fledged thing, but it's like, when
humans.
No, it's like, when in sports
Skynet superior.
Yeah.
When in sports do we stop? Like, when in sports do we stop? Because, like, the replays and all the other sports and the technology that they're using, like soccer now has like, or not, they've had it for a little bit now, but like the VAR, and like they have like a chip in the ball to know when it goes over the line. Yeah. And hockey, like they've talked about having like a chip in the puck. Like, I just don't know when it stops, where the sports are basically trying to eliminate the human element. Baseball has seemed for a while to be the most hesitant to it, but even now, like, they're almost like, if they take that jump to robo umps, like arguably they're probably like would be leading because the biggest part of the game you've now taken out of the hands of humans. So it's like it's
Well,
t-
hold,
it's
hold on, hold on, hold on. I want to go back to caveat to play devil's advocate with you there, Ty. I want to go back to what Will said, the human element of this. It's not the human element. It's not taking away the human element. It's making it more like efficient in terms of helping umpires, helping referees with with technology. I mean, like I would not want surgery on my back if I didn't have an MRI from a doctor like Will said. So why would you not want your officials to be more efficient?
No, but there's a difference.
The
There's a difference between a human element, as in the presence of humans on the field, like still like doing stuff, and there's a human element of literally what's calling the game is technology or a human. Like what is determining the outcome of the game is now a system, and like that's a huge jump. And like
I
again,
guess the question becomes is what's more important to the individual? Is it having some type of a human element in there that doesn't feel like it's run completely robotic, or is it about being accurate? That's
right.
really what it
So
comes down to.
exactly, you're taking the human element out of it. Like I'm saying, you're taking it out because everything is going to be perfect. And if you want that, I mean, a lot of people do, and I can understand why, because you don't want games ruined because of a bad call. But I think like, and this is where like purists of any sport come in, it's like, well, this is not how the game was brought up, like blah blah blah. Like there's going to be imperfections. We want there to be a human element. We want there to be like almost like not chance, but like we want there to be mistakes and stuff. And now again, if you go to like I I think ABS is a band-aid. If you go to a robo umps, that's now you're taking the main part of the game and putting it into the hands of technology where essentially like your game is based off of like being perfect, which is crazy
ones and
because like
zeros.
yeah, like and that I never thought would be the case. Again, baseball always seemed to be like so far away from that, but now people are just pushing for ABS, and again, it's like what Bobby said, like it's going to keep going, and I agree. I think it's going to continue to slope, and I just don't know when it stops, if it stops. But yeah,
Well,
umpires can be frustrating. Let's say
hold on.
that.
Yeah,
I
I only
wanna
watched Buckner yesterday.
I
Yeah.
want to be a caveat here, not a caveat, devil's advocate here regarding the
When do you
whole
not?
ones and zeros and perfection thing. Isn't that what baseball is constantly chasing? Is perfection here? I mean, look at
No.
how many.
No,
No,
it's
hold on,
money.
hold on, hold on. Let me
Yeah.
finish. Let me
Go
finish.
on. Go on.
Look at how many damn numbers we have for batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS plus our BABIP, RBAT. Like my point is, at this point, we're getting as much. We're so analytical with the players that we're almost trying to make them as perfect as possible. Why would we not want the officiating to be as perfect as possible?
No, that what you're describing doesn't make something more perfect. It finds
It,
ways
it,
where batters
it
are stronger in
yeah.
certain areas. That's all it does.
It makes
The
people. It makes them
numbers,
more efficient, but
yes.
it's not making them perfect. This is
Yeah,
making the game
the
perfect.
numbers are the numbers are simply just a tool to use so that you can analyze what you're actually hearing or seeing about when you're talking about any particular player, right? So if you notice, like, I mean, think about on base percentage. Like it was probably not as much tracked. I mean, something as simple as that. Like, okay, they're batting 210, but they're getting on freaking base. Or like for BABIP, like how many times when they hit the ball does it actually like go for a hit or go for extra bases? Like things of that effect. All it does is just translating what we're seeing and putting it into a nice little quantifiable thing so that we know what we're talking about. And anything, it actually leads to more creativity. I mean, that's the whole point of Moneyball. That's the whole point of what Bill James was doing when he was starting his revolution into things. Like, so no, I mean, chasing perfection. I mean, sure, everybody wants the perfect team. There's a reason, you call it, Diamond Dynasty and stuff like that. Like this is supposed to be like the big fantasy team where every perfect player is on one squad, right? But I
God
mean, yeah,
squad.
everyone's going to chase perfection individually, but I think what you're describing is There's a difference in, you know, a player trying to chase perfection and a skill that they have, and a machine being perfect in what it does, which is basically ball, strike. Those are two different types of perfect.
Okay. Well, here's my whole thing. How often, and this is going back to football, how often throughout the year did we complain about how the Chiefs got all the calls and all this other stuff, about, how the referees are, calling it for the Chiefs? Did we not, like, everybody says that unless you're a Chiefs fan. And they said it with the Patriots. They said it with, I'm sure they said it with the 49ers in the 80s. Like, the point is like, you have that human element there, that this level of efficiency, in a way, yeah, it takes that argument away, but then you're relying on the human skill of the players, which is what every sport is about.
But that's
Yeah.
also the argument of the purist. The argument of the purist is going to be, and I got to ask my dad about this, because he absolutely is against robo-umps in every capacity. He hates even the idea of it, right? And so the argument is going to be, you're taking away the human element, and that's a bad thing. Why? Because yes, if an umpire happens to have a shitty strike zone, well, then the player, who's getting paid a shit ton of money, by the way, is then having to adapt to a new scenario. And that is cool to see. Now, again, not saying that's a right or wrong argument, but that's the argument, is that the player is forced to adapt to a new situation that wasn't expected, instead of having to, not guess as much with ones and zeros. Now he has to really be more careful about pitches that might, just tap the end of the zone.
Yeah, and not for nothing too. I mean, you could talk about the Chiefs and this and that. They also got a lot of stuff in favor with technology being used and replays and stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I mean, again, I think that uh, this is going to be the debate until it goes one way or another. And there's a lot of old baseball fans that are pissed even about the ABS system. So I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when I mean they were pissed about replays, and now we're talking about putting
Well,
the
that's
game
another
into the
thing.
machine's hands. Like that's
Yeah.
That's another thing that, Bobby, you brought up. Like, yeah, after the first year, I remember, if I remember correctly, they tinkered with replay for like once, maybe twice, uh, in the in uh, in the time frame of it being in baseball. Since then, it's been pretty consistent in terms of like what the rules of it are. Now, has the call been consistent? No, but that's neither here nor there. The point of the matter is like, you have this tool to make you consistent, and you could argue that the umpires could hate replay because it makes them look dumb, but at least you have those arguments. You know what I mean?
I'm not against replay. I've never been against replay. I'm with replay in every sport. The difference is with replay, all you're doing is you're just asking 6 other people in another city to look at it with a bunch of different angles. That's really all you're doing. That's really all replay is. And of course, it doesn't help that when this is all happening, they're always showing it on the freaking jumbotron, so that the fans are already making their voice heard before a call is even made, which is just really funny a lot of time. But no, I don't hate replay by any stretch in any sport. It makes sense. It's a good thing to have. It's a good way that we can always challenge things. Like if a runner is safe, we brought him up earlier. I mean, Angel Hernandez. I mean, what was that one game where he had like 3 wrong calls at first base in a row for routine ground balls in a playoff
or
game?
ALDS?
I thought it was in
a playoff game.
Yankees Red Sox or something.
It was in the
replay,
ALDS.
probably good to have in that moment, huh? And the fact that all calls got overturned, so that they never lost their challenge, they never lost their replay, they just kept going back to it, and they're like, wow, he just missed.
Right, and
that's
the
a good
next
example
year,
of that bias I was talking about. By the way, the only reason he made that out call, that safe call the third time, was because he called out the other 2 times. I will die on that hill. That's 100% the only reason he did it.
Well, also look at his strike zone the next year for a game between I think it was the Astros and I want to say like the Mariners, where he called 3 pitches that were 3 feet off the plate strikes.
Yeah.
So you have that argument as well with in favor of that. Maybe, look, we could bring back Angel Hernandez with this, and he would be perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
He would have a job.
I just want to be clear. I am not against tech in baseball or in any sport. I think there's a lot of cool stuff we could do with it. I'm not even fully against the ABS system. I have concerns for what the future baseball looks like with it, and that's really all I'm just vocalizing. That's really I don't even feel that strong one way or another. They want to put the ABS system with that they were doing in spring training in next season. Fine by me. I'm all for it.
I love how whenever we talk about bad umpires, it's still always going to come back to Angel. It's
Dude,
still
it's just
always
it's the
it's-
easiest sample size. Like
the
that's the
Nobody's
thing.
taken
Like,
over. Nobody's taken over as king of bad umpires since he left.
No,
yeah.
there's a few kings, but there's only going to be one God.
Yes.
That's great. And with that, we will wrap it up. I don't think it could be wrapped up any better, to be honest.
Nope.
Yeah. 14 games into the season and we're already complaining, so that should set the tone for the rest of the year. Again, as I continue to say in these episodes, enjoy the baseball that you're seeing. It's good to have baseball back. You can follow us on Twitter at BL_breakdowns, Big League Breakdowns everywhere else. Make sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel for more. We do have Easter coming up, so we not really sure what our schedule is going to be going forward. We'll have to see. But yeah, again, keep enjoying baseball, and we will see you next time.
Wear your seatbelt, everybody.